The impossible discovery. Dr. Zora Vex stood before the towering data columns of the Galactic Archive, her 6 eyes scanning streams of information that flowed like liquid light through the crystalline structures. As the Celestial Dominion's lead xenobiologist, she had cataloged thousands of species across the galaxy, documenting their rise and inevitable fall according to the universal laws of evolution. Every civilization followed the same predictable pattern: rapid expansion, technological peak, then decline into extinction or stagnation. It was as certain as gravity itself. But today, something in the data made her pause. A file marked with warnings and contradiction flags caught her attention. Earth, Sol 3. The designation sent a chill through her 4-chambered heart. This planet should not exist. According to every calculation, every model, every prediction algorithm the Dominion possessed, the species called humans should have been extinct for over 3,000 cycles. The file detailed catastrophe after catastrophe: solar flares that should have sterilized the planet, ice ages that should have frozen all life, asteroid impacts that should have ended their evolutionary line, massive volcanic eruptions that should have choked their atmosphere. Yet somehow, impossibly, the signals from Earth continued to pulse through space, growing stronger each cycle rather than weaker. Zora's tentacles moved across the control interface, pulling up the most recent surveillance data. The images that materialized before her defied comprehension. Where her models predicted barren wasteland, she saw sprawling cities. Where calculations showed extinction, she found expansion. The humans had not merely survived their planet's attempts to destroy them. They had thrived, spreading beyond their world into the void itself. The Dominion Council had classified Earth as a statistical anomaly and ordered no further investigation. Resources were better spent on more predictable species, they claimed. But Zora couldn't let it go. The xenobiologist in her demanded answers. How had a species with such chaotic, unpredictable behavior patterns survived when more advanced civilizations had fallen to far lesser challenges? She made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Against direct orders, Zora requisitioned a stealth reconnaissance vessel and set course for the Sol system. If the humans were truly an anomaly, she would document it. If they represented something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, the universe needed to know. The journey to Earth took several cycles, during which Zora studied every piece of available data on human behavior. What she found both fascinated and disturbed her. Humans seemed to approach problems from angles that no rational species would consider. They combined unrelated concepts, ignored established scientific principles, and somehow produced results that worked despite being theoretically impossible. As her ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, Zora's instruments immediately detected anomalies. The space around Earth buzzed with activity. Crude-looking vessels moved between planets, their designs appearing cobbled together from spare parts yet functioning with remarkable efficiency. Most shocking of all was a massive structure orbiting Earth itself, a space station that her sensors identified as being constructed primarily from recycled debris. The station should have collapsed under its own structural weight. Its power systems were a nightmare of mismatched components that should have exploded the moment they were activated. Its life support relied on biological systems integrated with mechanical ones in ways that violated every engineering principle Zora knew. Yet there it was, not just functional but apparently thriving, home to thousands of humans who seemed completely unconcerned about living in what any rational being would consider a death trap. Curiosity overrode caution. Zora activated her ship's translation protocols and sent a communication request to the station. The response came immediately, filled with warmth and enthusiasm that caught her completely off guard. Instead of suspicion or hostility, the humans invited her aboard with genuine excitement about meeting a new alien species. Captain Elena Rodriguez met Zora at the station's docking bay, her dark eyes bright with curiosity. She was younger than Zora had expected for someone commanding such a large installation, with graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and hands that bore the calluses of someone who worked with tools as much as commanded others. "Welcome to Harmony Station," Elena said, her smile infectious even to an alien psychology. "We've been hoping to meet someone from out there. Please, let me show you around." As they walked through the station's corridors, Zara's instruments went wild trying to catalog the impossibilities surrounding her. Gardens grew in zero gravity without soil, sustained by what appeared to be modified atmospheric processors and the enthusiasm of children who tended them as if they were pets. A workshop hummed with activity where engineers worked alongside artists, creating devices that served both functional and aesthetic purposes. But it was the fusion reactor that broke every model in Zara's database. Elena led her to the station's power core with obvious pride, explaining how her team had solved the energy crisis using principles that theoretical physicists across the galaxy insisted were impossible. "The key," Elena explained, running her hand along a control panel covered in hand-drawn diagrams, was realizing that we were thinking about fusion all wrong. Instead of trying to contain the reaction, we learned to dance with it. My daughter drew this pattern during art class, and when our engineers saw it, something clicked. The reactor core pulsed with gentle rhythm, its containment field shifting and flowing in patterns that resembled music more than physics. It shouldn't work. Every calculation said it should have torn the station apart within seconds of activation. Yet it had been running for over 2 standard years, providing clean, unlimited power with an efficiency rating that surpassed anything in the Dominion's arsenal. "How?" Zara whispered, her translator struggling with the concept. "How do you make it work?" Elena's laugh was warm and genuine. "We don't make it work. We ask it to work with us. Every machine, every system on this station, we've learned to treat them like partners rather than tools. Sounds crazy, I know, but somehow it responds." Over the following days, Zara documented example after example of human innovation that defied logic. A communication array built from kitchen utensils that achieved clarity impossible with purpose-built equipment. Gardens that produced food using principles that combined chemistry, biology, and what humans called hope in equal measure. Children who solved engineering problems by approaching them as games, finding solutions that adult minds missed because they were too focused on conventional thinking. The most disturbing discovery came when Zara realized that human creativity appeared to be accelerating. Each generation didn't just build upon the previous one's knowledge. They completely reimagined how knowledge could be applied. A group of teenagers showed her a device they had built that could manipulate local gravity fields using nothing more than recycled electronics and what they laughingly called controlled stubbornness. "The universe keeps telling us things are impossible," one of them explained while adjusting the device's calibration with a tool that appeared to be part wrench, part musical instrument. "But we found that if you don't listen to the universe's rules too closely, you can sometimes convince reality to bend a little." As Zara prepared her report for the Dominion Council, she realized she faced an impossible task. How could she explain to a galaxy built on order and predictability that chaos itself might be the ultimate survival trait? How could she make them understand that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their technology or their intelligence, but in their absolute refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible? Her final log entry that cycle read: Species designation: human. Status: active and expanding. Threat level: unknown. Recommendation: immediate comprehensive study required. Note: previous models of civilization development may be fundamentally flawed. Humans appear to represent an entirely new evolutionary pathway, one that treats limitations as suggestions rather than laws. When she transmitted the report, the response from the Dominion Council was swift and alarmed. An emergency session was called. Orders came through for immediate containment protocols. Earth was to be isolated, its influence contained before it could spread to other systems. But as Zara looked out at Harmony Station, watching human children play in gardens that shouldn't exist while their parents worked on machines that couldn't function, she wondered if containment was even possible. How do you contain an idea? How do you quarantine creativity itself? The universe was about to find out that some forces cannot be stopped, only embraced or destroyed in the attempt. The universe's fear and humanity's rise. The Universal Council chamber materialized around delegates from across the galaxy, a vast spherical space where representatives of 100 different species gathered in emergency session. Holographic displays showed tactical analyses, threat assessments, and dire warnings about the human contamination. At the center of it all, Dr. Zara Vex stood before the assembled powers of the galaxy, defending a species that everyone else wanted to eliminate. Admiral Korth of the Rigel Hegemony slammed his weapon arm against his podium, the metallic ring echoing through the chamber. The evidence is clear. These humans represent a viral infection of chaos that threatens the very foundation of galactic order. Their unpredictable nature makes them impossible to negotiate with, impossible to predict, impossible to control. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Dominion had built their vast civilization on the principle of controlled evolution, guiding younger species along predetermined paths toward stability and useful integration. Humanity represented everything they feared: uncontrolled change, unpredictable outcomes, and worst of all, the dangerous idea that established rules could be ignored. "They're not a virus," Zara argued, her voice carrying despite her smaller stature among the giants of galactic politics. "They're a solution. Every problem we faced as a galactic community, every challenge that's brought civilizations to stagnation, humans approach differently. They don't see barriers where we see walls." The collective, a hive mind AI that represented the interests of 17 machine civilizations, spoke with the voice of billions of networked intelligences. "Chaos is antithetical to progress. Order creates efficiency. Efficiency creates survival. The human's methodology produces unpredictable variables that destabilize optimal outcomes." But even as the debate raged, reports filtered in from across the galaxy that supported Zora's position. Human traders had visited the Ta City colonies and left behind technological innovations that had revolutionized their mining operations. A human scientist working with researchers on Proxima had helped them solve power distribution problems that had puzzled them for centuries. Most disturbing of all, other species were beginning to adopt human approaches to problem solving, abandoning tried and true methods for experimental techniques that somehow produced better results. The fear was palpable. If human creativity truly was contagious, if their approach to challenges could spread to other species, the carefully maintained balance of galactic power would collapse overnight. It was then that Chancellor Vex of the Central Authority proposed the ultimate test. If these humans are truly as innovative as Dr. Vex claims, let them prove it. Present them with the void paradox. If they can solve what our greatest minds have failed to understand for 50,000 years, perhaps their chaos deserves consideration. The void paradox was legendary throughout the galaxy. Ancient ruins found in the empty spaces between stars contained technology that defied comprehension. The artifacts clearly demonstrated advanced physics and engineering capabilities, but they remained completely inert. Every attempt to activate them had failed. Every analysis had revealed only deeper mysteries. The consensus among galactic scientists was that the technology required some fundamental understanding of reality that no current species possessed. Zara felt her heart sink. The void paradox had been studied by the greatest minds in galactic history. Presenting it to humanity felt like sending them to their doom, a way for the Council to demonstrate human limitations and justify whatever containment measures they chose to implement. But she had no choice. The alternative was immediate military action against Earth. The journey back to Harmony Station felt longer than before. Zara carried with her a complete database of everything known about the void paradox, along with authorization to present the challenge directly to humanity's representatives. She expected to meet with scientists, with their greatest theorists and engineers. Instead, Captain Rodriguez introduced her to Maya Chen, a 12-year-old girl with bright eyes and paint-stained fingers who had apparently volunteered to look at the problem. Maya's our best puzzle solver, Elena explained with complete seriousness. She sees things the rest of us miss. Zara stared at the child in disbelief. The fate of humanity, perhaps the fate of the entire galaxy, rested on the shoulders of someone who hadn't even reached physical maturity by her species' standards. Maya examined the void paradox data with intense concentration, occasionally asking questions that revealed a completely different approach to the problem. While galactic scientists had focused on the technology's complexity, Maya seemed more interested in why it had been built in the first place. These weren't machines, she announced after 3 days of study. They were gifts. The simplicity of the statement caught everyone off guard. Gifts. Look at the placement, Maya continued, pulling up star charts with her small hands. They're positioned exactly where different species would find them during their natural expansion periods. And the design. She paused, sketching rapidly on a tablet. It's not about making something work. It's about making something that wants to work with you. Her solution was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to force the ancient technology to activate, she proposed treating it as a collaborative partner. The artifacts weren't broken or incomplete. They were waiting for someone to approach them with the right mindset. When Maya's approach was tested on actual void paradox artifacts, they came alive instantly. Ancient machines that had resisted analysis for millennia began functioning as if they had merely been waiting for someone to ask nicely. The implication sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The void paradox hadn't been unsolvable. It had been a test. The ancient civilization that created the artifacts had embedded a requirement for cooperation, for creative thinking, for the kind of approach that came naturally to humans, but seemed impossible for species trained in rigid hierarchical thinking. Word of Maya's breakthrough spread faster than hyperspace communication. Within cycles, delegations from across the galaxy were requesting human consultants. Problems that had stymied civilizations for millennia were being solved by human teenagers who approached them as interesting puzzles rather than insurmountable challenges. The transformation was rapid and irreversible. The Universal Council found itself restructuring around human innovations. Traditional hierarchies gave way to collaborative networks. Rigid research protocols were replaced by creative workshops where scientists from different species worked together to explore possibilities rather than prove theories. Zara watched from her new position as Director of Interspecies Creative Cooperation as the galaxy transformed around humanity's influence. The collective, once opposed to human chaos, had begun incorporating randomness generators into their decision-making processes and reported unprecedented improvements in problem-solving efficiency. Admiral Korth's military forces had adopted human tactical approaches and found their effectiveness increased dramatically when they stopped trying to predict enemy behavior and started improvising responses. The change wasn't without challenges. Some species struggled to adapt to less structured approaches. Others worried about losing their cultural identity in the rush to embrace human methods. But even these problems were being addressed through typically human solutions. Communication, compromise, and the persistent belief that every challenge was an opportunity in disguise. Standing in the observation deck of the new Galactic Innovation Center, built in orbit around Earth, Zara reflected on how completely her understanding of the universe had changed. The rigid models she had once relied upon seemed primitive now, like trying to predict the beauty of a sunset using only mathematics. Captain Rodriguez joined her at the observation window, both of them watching as ships from dozens of different species docked at the station, their crews eager to participate in humanity's latest project, mapping the emotional resonance of dark matter. "Do you ever wonder," Elena asked, "if we're moving too fast? Changing too much?" Zara's laugh was warm, touched with the infectious humor she had learned from humans. "I used to fear change. My species built our entire civilization on avoiding it. But you've taught us something wonderful. The universe isn't a problem to be solved. It's a dance partner waiting for us to learn the steps." Below them, Earth continued its ancient rotation, home to the species that had refused to accept limitations, and in doing so had freed an entire galaxy from the prison of its own expectations. The universe had underestimated human creativity, and in their success, every species had discovered new possibilities for their own evolution. The age of rigid order was ending. The age of creative cooperation had begun, and at its heart, driving every innovation and breakthrough, was the simple human belief that impossible was just another word for haven't tried hard enough yet. In the end, the universe hadn't feared human minds too late. It had embraced them just in time to discover what it could truly become.